Hey everyone, I'm back again with another part of the Steel Soul run. Last time I was able to get two of the three melodies to finish up Act 2. The last one I have is going to be up in the High Halls where I'm planning on going to next. Unfortunately, one of the rooms was getting a little bit rough, and so I sort of just decided that I was not going to get to the next bench up there. Honestly, it might be a good idea for me to get like a second silk heart or something else before going up here. Just because I think it'll be a little easier on the platforming, but I think I should be okay to just stick with one, even if it's a little bit of a pain. But anyway, I'm getting pretty close to being able to get really just about everything there is to Act 2. So first off, I would sort of just like to start off getting through the high halls here, and then... missed that. But just starting off getting through the high halls, and then I was thinking I'd probably go get some of the other things like, oh, what was it? So there was another couple of Weaver's Nest. There are a couple of areas I have not explored quite yet that are typically just later Act 2. It's like the Wisp Thicket I know I haven't gone to yet. I have not gone to Bilewater or the Putrefied Waterways, or at least with the very, very small amount I have gone to Bilewater. It was like off camera, just off of Sinner's Road. And it really didn't have anything there that I've done yet, so it wasn't too much of a big deal. So there was that. There was a place called the Mist right next to it, which will have a boss, which gives me a pretty cool extra spell. So that one I'm actually kind of excited for. It's not the best spell in the game. It's like a parry. I personally do think it is one of the coolest spells in the game. But not inherently, like, you know, the best, if you will. As mentioned, I am not a huge fan of these enemies, so... this was the room last time that ended up giving me some trouble. Because unfortunately, these enemies sort of just absolutely love to just constantly wait above you and not fly down to you at all. I think there is a second and maybe even a third up here. So that's going to be great to deal with, but... I'm figuring tools are probably just the fastest way to take them out. And there you go. Seems right. So... I think there's just something like a silk spool. I don't think it's a mask fragment up at the top of here, but I guess we'll find out. Clearing this room should just give a nice little reward, though. That's right, I do remember. This little segment here gives me kind of just memories of what it was like when you unlocked the 5th Pantheon in the first Hollow Knight. Because normally what you do is there's like this little hot spring at the top of Godhome, and you climb up this sort of tunnel very similar to this that brings you to the top of it. Okay, so, some of these next rooms coming up, as far as I'm aware, are pretty much just going to be like a whole lot of platforming. They're kind of fun. I have done them a few times, and sometimes, especially like, so now because I don't have any extra craft metal, I'll have to actually go back down one of them. Or I'll have to go back up one of them, I guess, more. But I have to go back up this one that I'm about to go through in order to go get the cog flies when I do have another craft metal. That room can be a bit of a pain to get back up, but it's honestly kind of cool if you pull it off right. Unfortunately, I didn't really use my claw line very well there. This enemy, I don't know. Oh, okay. I didn't think it was actually going to follow me all the way down there, but I guess I'm not complaining. And it seems like it's still just going to be a pain for me to deal with, so I might have to actually just, again, go back down and heal up. Unfortunately, this area has been kind of a little bit just difficult for me to get through without almost dying. So since I've gone through that one room now, it should be a lot easier to, you know, not have to go back through there. Not have to go all the way up through all of the stupid flying enemies, but just again, gonna make sure real quick that I don't die here. and then I should be able to get right back up through that room. The platforming part I don't really find too difficult. I've done it enough times, too, to where it's sort of just... it comes fairly naturally. So that should be pretty quick. I do think I have 2 simple keys now. I think I can get all 4 of them Act 2. I do now remember what every single one of them does. So it shouldn't really be all too difficult. Oh, hold on. I'm trying to see. I think these also count as Hunter's Journal entries. Seems like not. But, yeah, so one of the simple keys is to, as we saw earlier, unlock the Wormways for the first time. One of them is to unlock a character known as the Green Prince, who will unlock for Danya. The third one is, it's in the Deep Docks, and the fourth one is going to actually be at the end of High Halls, and it basically unlocks a gun which can shoot rosaries. I think it gets stronger based on the type of rosaries you shoot, albeit I am not entirely sure on that. Actually, I don't think it can. I think I'm very much thinking of, like, the Terraria coin gun. Okay. This time, this room should be pretty quick, I can only assume. Because you can also just skip these guys if you're able to get the right timing over them. I would like to sort of just take them out just because I think it's some extra rosaries. There we go. I didn't even pick up the rosaries from there, but whatever. Okay, so downwards is going to be the actual progressive route. I do think there's still a little bit of something up here. Albeit I'm not entirely sure what it is again. Seems like it's just an extra rosary chest, which is nice. But now it's time for this part. So this part's basically just doing a bunch of different claw line things. Shouldn't be all too difficult. I will be able to unlock, I believe, a bit of a shortcut back to here, just to the left. Oh no, so this here is actually the Cogfly room. I do believe there's a second area, which is the shortcut. So I'm not able to get this quite yet, just because I don't have any craft metal, as I mentioned earlier. But it's good to have it, just sort of, you know, here. And here's one of these sort of rarer, larger mites again. Not too bad of a fight. And I don't think there's anything else in this room, except for the cogflies when I'm actually able to get them. Was hoping I wasn't going to have to deal with this guy, but luckily, because he's above me, he's not too bad. If they do follow above you like that, you can pretty much just go and repeatedly hit them over and over and over again really quickly, and it just absolutely wipes their health. So here's going to be the actual shortcut that I was mentioning. I think over there is just like a rosary necklace or something. This room is a little annoying because it has a lot of those little flying enemies like that. Yep, I was going to say, I believe it's actually also got one of those bigger mite enemies. There we go. Having my Hunter's Crest charged up made that pretty quick. Ah, that's what it was. So another Psalm Cylinder is in here, which is just kind of neat. I don't think there's, again, really all too much in this room, because it is mainly just meant as a shortcut route that brings you back to the beginning of the High Halls. So now I won't have to deal with a lot of those really just, like, annoying rooms that I had to deal with last time. So this area is very near where we started. Again, there's an enemy here who I might as well take out, just because I don't think he's going to be too big of a deal. I say as I get hit. But going back through here is pretty quick. I can just swim all the way back and get right back to where I was. That shortcut's not going to be anything too crazy for the most part. Really, it'll be most useful when I need to go back and get the cogflies. But that's it. That is pretty much the entirety of the platforming segment there. I don't think there's anything up here, as far as I'm aware at least. It does seem like there's almost a little bit of a gap there, but I don't have the ability that'll get me up there yet. I don't think there's any other secrets I'm able to do with that quite yet. So, for now, I'm able to just head down. So, down here is also going to be, as I mentioned, pretty much the most brutal encounter room in the entire game. I'm not sure if I want to do this quite yet. I think I might want to get another piece of craft metal first. I know there's one in the putrefied waterways. So I might go get that first. There's that and the Pimpillo, which I still need both of. But otherwise, I think we're looking pretty good to take it on. So up here is one of these simple key slots. And because I've got, 3 of the 4 of them total, I think I'm just going to unlock it. So this is going to be the rosary gun. I'm not actually sure how strong it is as a tool. I've never used it really before, but it is kind of funny because it just, shoots rosaries. Because this is one of these. So these machines normally, you'll put in 80 rosaries and then they give you back the string of 60, very similar to like a bunch of the NPCs. And underneath it, you can kind of break its contraption. That's what actually gives you the rosary gun. Okay. Misplayed a little there. I forgot that was at the bottom. Okay. So that there, I think you can see a couple rosary chests that are actually just there in the first place. I am not doing too hot with my platforming. I have a feeling. Yep, so there's just some consistent steam there. Ooh, that's a problem. Unfortunately, I don't think there's really a fantastic way for me to deal with this thing without getting super close, and it is a little sketchy when you're close to them. But I also just got the Hunter's Journal entry for them, so I can't complain all too much. So this is going to be the way out. Also going to offer me some rosaries, which is pretty nice. This room is pretty much just one big chunk of money. And a pale rosary necklace, which is, as far as I'm aware, the most expensive type of, like, rosary-giving item in the entire game. This here is going to be the actual rosary gun itself. The rosary cannon. Kind of a funny item, honestly. I remember I picked it up the first time and I was like, wait, they have a fucking gun? And, yeah, they do. Multiple, honestly. The other one I don't think I'm able to get quite yet. I do believe that's in Bile Water. So to the left is going to be that encounter room, which I don't think I'm going to go to quite yet. I will pretty soon, I think. Just because I do have most of the stuff that I really, need to take it out. But there are a few other things that I can go do real quick. So there was, as I mentioned before, this one spot in the Wormways. There's the Weaver's Nest down there. There is, I believe I actually got this thing in the halfway home, the memory. So Sinner's Road here, there's this little segment you can see. That's going to be one of the foods for the next nail upgrade with the pale oil. Otherwise, I don't think there's all too much. There is the deep docks, actually. I can do that as well. I think I can get part of a 10th mask before Act 3. I don't think I'm going to need 9 masks to finish this up, but I think there's not really any harm in at least getting some other things done first. One of those things I know I can do here. So I have all the 3 pieces of the Cogwork Heart. If I'm correct, at least. I'm going to double check that real quick. I do. So I have the full Cog Heart, and that's going to let me go and start up that one NPC's quest. I do know I'm also going to try to find Garmond. I don't know where he is, and I have not checked where I need to get encounters, but I feel like it's in the Citadel now. And while I'm here, I may as well also just finish up buying all these things. So neither of those are going to be useful for a while. There is a boss fight later, I know, for Act 3. I was also able to find out that the, I believe it's like Sigil of the Deep or something like that, Elegy of the Deep. So it's a song you learn in Act 3, and it lets you enter certain enemies' minds. Very similar to the Dream Nail in the first Hollow Knight. They're basically like the dream bosses. And I am able to die to those bosses and not actually lose the Steel Soul run, which is good because they are by far some of the hardest bosses besides the very final boss of the game. The very final boss of the game is going to be pretty brutal. So that one's going to be sort of a, we'll see how that goes. I very well, because I do have a save file that has this unlocked, I may very well go and practice that one before I actually take it on in Steel Soul, because that boss is genuinely pretty scary. It is, I think, by far harder than any other boss in the first game, and easily most bosses in the second game. I did find out that this area is actually really not all that bad. You can really hit a lot of enemies off the edge or down into a bunch of cogs, and it just takes them out really quickly. Let's see here. So I think I actually am also able to go get the Architect's Crest, and if that can give me an extra yellow, item, that could be kind of nice. So over here is going to be the actual, NPC. There's a bit of a shard bundle right there. But here we are.
Hironare. Nalegara actum. Hasbin?
So basically, I will find that NPC sort of just, roaming around, doing its thing. It will eventually challenge me to a boss fight, one which I'm not too worried about again. I don't think it's really all that bad. But it will be nice to have done. Virtually all these cog enemies all respawn every single time that I leave and re-enter the room. So just got to deal with a couple of them. So I think my plan here is now sort of to just maybe go around a little bit, get the Crest of the Architect, go check out that other Wormway, maybe go to Bilewater and the Putrefied Water Ducts, as much as I would hate to be there. They do have some pretty decent stuff in them, so it's always worth it, obviously, to go through 100% of the map, make sure you are getting absolutely everything. Oh, so there you go, you can actually see. So you can sort of help it take out the enemies. It just sort of stands there for a minute and then leaves. So I'm going to head down to the Grand Bellway. I think the Underworks... Underworks are actually a lot closer to the Architect, so I think I'll go there first, get the Crest of the Architects, and then I think after that I can head down and see if I actually finally have gotten that extra little tool slot. The Architect's Key is definitely pretty cool, though. So I think I probably also need another craft metal for the Silk Shot, which is the other sort of gun-esque item. All three of the craft metals I need for just sort of like random strewn about tools is, I believe, going to be the Pimpillo, which is the explosive one that I've gotten like in previous parts. I do not have that one now, as I mentioned, just because, I've lost the runs. There is the cogflies, and then there is, I believe, the silk shot. And I think that's all.
Mi offende? Ah, ulama.
Okay, so we are able to get the Architect's Key. It's pretty cheap. This, I know, some people say is by far the strongest crest in the game because it just lets you immediately rebuild tools super, super quickly. I would go down to the White Ward right now, but unfortunately you can't really get back to the White Ward from here. But there is that other key which I would use to get the second Silk Heart. That boss is pretty tricky. It actually definitely scares me a little bit. So there's a little bit of a secret here with all these past architects. You can use your needle in to see some dialogue. So that's just kind of neat, and here we're able to claim the Crest of the Architects. Yep, and so basically what you can do is, as far as I'm aware, you can use the equivalent of what would normally be like a bind or a heal, but while also using the up arrow, and that just lets you basically craft completely new tools entirely. It is very, very strong. It's also got one of my favorite designs for the needle strike, it's sort of like a drill. And then there's also just a little bit more dialogue you can get from the architect from that. So that's just kind of nice. And then she does also say this.
Mi offende? Sì, mandore.
So basically, the architect, after you are able to get all the tools from her, basically relates that she is just slowing and is gonna die. So you can get, I believe, her, like, memorial, kind of, I believe is what they're called. There's a few of them in the game. 8 of them total, I believe. So, having that, I think the goal next is going to be sort of to go down to Bone Bottom, because then I can get up to the Wormways from there. I don't think I've actually... Well, maybe I've done the Alchemist side quest. I think I very well... No, I don't believe I have. So there's a few things I can get when I go up there, being the Alchemist side quest, which I have done before in previous parts, just didn't get to this time yet. So there is that. And then there is also going to be some other components in the Wormways. Like, there is a bit of a... There's, like, kind of a secret tool. It is also a Steel Soul exclusive, because I think the normal one is that it, like, retains some rosaries on death or something like that. But the remake of it, I forget exactly what it does, but it's kind of neat. Oh, and this is one of my favorite things about the entire game. But he makes you a little statuette of yourself, just because of how much you've helped the town. And it's kind of cute to just keep in your inventory. So, with all that, it is kind of funny. I didn't actually know that the other Skull Tyrant would destroy the statue of him that they built. But, I guess it can happen, because you can also normally destroy it for yourself for shell shards, but generally I just, you know, don't like to destroy all the work he does for shell shards that I'm able to get from any enemy. But down here, Eva should be able to help us out. And there we are. So it's called the Vesta Crest. I didn't remember exactly what it was called, but basically, completely independently of your main crest, you can use this to just equip extra tools. And so I'm not able to get anything else quite yet from here. But that is going to be very, very useful, especially because yellow tools tend to not be, like, you know, super, super powerful, but they are decent. Some of them are much stronger than others. I think the one that I'm probably going to keep equipped constantly is going to be the magnetite dice. Even though, because I assume, like I've shown, the main crest I use is the Crest of the Hunter, just because assuming you play well with it, which I do not always do, you just get so much extra damage. I did look it up. It is able to bring you basically anywhere from like a third extra damage to basically doubling your just damage as a whole, which is stupidly strong once you have it fully upgraded. I don't think I'm able to before I get to Act 3, but it is by far probably my favorite upgrade. So let's see here. Some of the others here are kind of funny. Like, I think the Silk Speed anklets are one of my other favorites. It's just that they use silk, that I'm not a huge fan of. This one allows you to hold in place on a wall just like no matter where you are, which is kind of cool. Again, I don't find it super useful though. I could equip the compass, because a lot of the times I sort of just, you know, go around and I'm like, oh yeah, I know where I am, but it doesn't really show it super well. There is the Scuttle Brace, which is kind of funny. I don't find it super useful, but it's kind of a funny ability. I think I've shown it off before. And this would be nice, but honestly, overall, I think that the compass is just going to be sort of nice to show where I am at any given point. So that should give just a clearer idea as a whole. Sands of Karak I probably will have to go to soon, unfortunately. The slab, I think I have to get the Key of the Apostate this time, but because I've bought everything from the merchant, I believe she goes out again soon. And that's when I'm able to get the Key of the Apostate. So there's also that NPC again. I don't know. Yes, I am able to get up here. So this will just bring me up through the wormways. I can get a few things done here before I continue. I don't think anything too crazy goes on up here right now. It's really just like collecting the few little lifeblood dots. Let's see here, because there's like one right here, and then there's a couple others. There's like the Alchemist Assistant I know over, I think, to the left. I'm not sure if it's this room specifically. There's also these enemies who I don't think I've actually killed a single one of quite yet. This would be the other room, which has a whole bunch of stuff. Luckily, being able to two-shot those enemies lets me actually deal with them. Because those are normally kind of a pain, and they've got a much worse variant in Act 3, in my opinion. So everything, once you hit Act 3 in this area, becomes, like, totally infused with lifeblood. So in here, this is sort of like Secret Room Part 1, and this is Secret Room Part 2. And this here would be the Alchemist Assistant. So you're able to play just a little bit of a tune, and there's a little bit of, you know, lore here as well. So basically, the whole point of Lifeblood in this is that it has been shown to be incredibly, like, kind of toxic in its own right. Like, it almost imbues things with an excessive amount of vitality and power, and that makes them incredibly dangerous, and even Hornet mentions. So there's a bit of a synergy where if you use the Crest of the Architect and the Lifeblood tool that you get from the Alchemist, basically you can just overload yourself on Lifeblood, and if you do, all of your every single one of your masks will turn into lifeblood. And then I don't... Is there no secret down here? I thought there might have been, but it seems I was wrong. But every single one of your masks will turn into lifeblood. It's kind of like hive blood from the first game, where, like, if you get hit, your masks will regenerate over time, but it's not just one, it can do all of them. It's very, very strong. From what I've seen, it's pretty just bluntly broken, especially if you play right with it. So we are pretty much right next to the Weaver's Nest as of now. But you need the call line to get to it, because you aren't able to quite do like a running jump and then a second dash midair. That barely doesn't work. There's a few things going on here. I don't think there's really too much except for like the one item that you normally get from each Weaver Nest. I don't think you can jump through, because some of these spots where there's like a light coming through the ceilings, that occasionally, such as like things like this, it looks like you can jump into them, but you definitely just aren't always able to. There we go. This part isn't really all too bad. You just have to time it a little bit. And it's actually another binding ability, so I think this is another spell. Yeah, so this one lets you basically dash straight through enemies. It's honestly pretty cool. I think I used it a little bit. You can kind of use it as like an extra dash. It is neat. Because I think they also sort of, you know, oh wow, look at all the enemies here that you can use it on. I don't actually know if this takes out one of these enemies. It looks like it does, because these are one of, you know, the bigger pain in the ass enemies to get your Hunter's Journal logbook entry of, just because they're kind of tanky and they only really exist for a few seconds at a time. So being able to get that is just kind of nice. One thing you can also sort of tell, so when you walk around, you'll see there's like these cloud puffs. You can see that one is not moving with me, which means there's another enemy underground there. So, fairly simple Weaver's Nest. Really just gives you that ability. It's pretty solid. I think I still prefer just like the standard one. Threadstorm definitely being probably one of the most powerful spells in the game. But nonetheless, it's kind of cool. I don't know if I'm actually able to make this. Looks like I can. So this is going to be a second one of those little lifeblood buds. I don't know if there's sort of any other stuff around here, because I know at the top of the Wormways there is another little bit of a secret room. It's where Chakra gives you the map. And I think fairly near here is also like another one of those Steel Soul things. So up here is going to be the Alchemist. And this time there's a bit of different dialogue too, because I actually have found his assistant.
Cadestre. Da, finestra. Nesvir.
So I can get this done real quick. I do know where, you know, all the locations of all this are, so I can get them all pretty quickly. And so he just gives you the file, and once you hit Act 3, because normally, you know, you need to come back to recharge it from him, what's kind of neat about it is that once you hit Act 3, you get the, essentially, like, lifeblood gland, and it basically just, it lets you infinitely refill it for whenever you want. I mean, as long as you're sitting at a bench, at least, because it will still have, like, limited uses. At least, I think, before you get the lifeblood gland, because then I assume Crest of the Architect allows you to craft more infinitely, because otherwise it's very similar to Flea Brew, where you sort of just have to, like, go to a certain spot to refill it every time for rosaries. Flea Brew, I do believe, becomes, like, free once you hit Act 3 and get the final location for the fleas, which is Fleetopia. But otherwise, Flea Brew is a pretty strong tool. It's just one of the biggest pains in the ass to deal with also, so it's got its ups and downs for sure. This also has a very similar like counterpart for a quest in Act 3, which I believe how you actually get like the infinite plasmium gland. But you have to basically actually hit creatures with the plasmium vial, and that one is for sure a bit of a pain to do right. So, luckily, all these lifeblood, like, bulbs really aren't that hard to get to. There's just that one I just did where you pretty much go straight down, and then it's on the right side, right before where you normally exit back into, like, the Moss Grotto. There's the one down here, sort of behind secret wall number 1. Wrong button. And then the last one is actually much closer to the alchemist already, so I can just head right back there, and then get it and hand it to him. I'm actually not entirely sure whether or not I'm able to get some of these enemies in Act 3, like to continue with the Hunter's Journal. I can only assume I likely can, but I'm sort of trying to take them out while I can, because especially like these guys who drop from the ceiling become absolutely ruthless once you hit that point. Figure, just because these guys are infinite, I can also get a heal here. Maybe take out another couple of these guys. And also lose another mask in the process, I guess. Figure I'll get a little bit of silk here, and then work my way up to the last bulb, which should really just kind of be like right over here. Unfortunately, I didn't pull that one off quite right. I think I'm running a little bit too far before my jump, or not enough. There we go. Wrong button again. And that's going to be the last plasmium bulb. And straight up here should just bring us right back, and then I can go to the other portion of the wormways. So this really just gives us another tool of plasmium, which lets me get some more masks. Just kind of nice. I've never really used it, but I can only assume, you know, being able to pretty much instantly inject you with your, you know, yourself with extra masks is just really good for survivability. There we go. So, my tools are actually looking pretty good right now. I'm not really missing that many. Once I hit Act 3, I'll be able to get something, I believe it's called, like, the Wayfinder or something, or, like, Waylight. But it literally shows you exactly how much of everything you're missing, which is kind of neat. And then this here, yep, brings you to the other part, I believe, near Blasted Steps. And this is going to be where sort of the other components are. Including that one Steel Soul exclusive tool that I mentioned beforehand. Never mind. So actually, this, I think, still does lead up to around there. But normally, I think this is how you get into this area. Through this other portion of the wormways right here. So going down just sort of lets you unlock the, like the way that you first ever get into the wormway. So this is where you normally get that mask shard, right after you beat that one mini-boss. And yeah, I don't actually think quite yet, because there are unique enemies for the Hunter's Journal. Oh, they are here. So these enemies you can only get sort of later on, after you've beaten that boss. That's right there, the entirety of their full completed Hunter's logbook entry, so that is nice. Looks like there is more at the top of the room, something instead in this room. So, well, this is going to be more like the continuation path. I am going to head all the way up to the top of the room first. I don't know if there's really any secrets up here, as far as I'm aware, because this is where we came into the room in the first place. And this is going to be sort of the other portion. Memory locket, I would guess. Nope, frayed rosary string. unfortunately, a lot of the times when I try to guess whether or not it's going to be like a memory locket, they look very, very similar in how their locations are. Like, it's always just dead bug. And sometimes they have a memory locket, and sometimes it's just rosaries. So you can see there's Chakra's rings, and then this is normally where Chakra is. So I think, actually, do I already have it? Because it would be in my tools. So I do not have it yet. I'm trying to remember exactly where it is, because I'm at the top of... I think it's actually just a little bit further up here. Yeah, right down here. So this is the shell satchel, or the shell satchel. I forget what it does. Increases the quantity of crafted material. So it literally just lets you hold more tools. It kind of acts as like another pouch. Not including shell shards directly, like the pouch does too, but nonetheless, a pretty good upgrade, I would argue. I don't think there's a secret room down here, but I did see there was sort of like another slot here. Unless, okay, that looks like it's really just a safer way to avoid this sort of just direct up tunnel. I kind of like the tunnels like this, just because you can always, you know, hit a bunch of worms in a row and just get pretty much all your silk back immediately. So up here, the only other two things that we have, so there is one in Shellwood, which I'm pretty close to. So I think I was also, yeah, a little bit below where I gotta go there. That'll just progress the actual quest line for Steel Seer Z a little more. This should be pretty much most of the stuff I think we still have left. So obviously there's still a few little bits and bobs here and there. Just in terms of like, okay, I've got to go get like a quest done that's collecting like needles from enemies that are in the Citadel, stuff like that. But for the most part, we're actually getting pretty close to being entirely done with all of Act 2, which is kind of neat. I don't think I'm really all too worried about the final bosses of Act 2. Neither of them are that hard. The final boss of Act 3 is basically just a harder version of the penultimate Act 2 boss. So it's a little tricky, I guess, but the final variation of it in Act 3 is just so much more difficult that I would be far more worried for that one. Okay. So I do still have to go up around here, it looks like, to actually go and get the rest of this. Luckily, it's just a little bit of platforming, and we're right back up here. And then I think I just head pretty much, yep, straight right, and that will be the other part. I don't really need a lot of these logbook entries, at least not yet. So I'm not too worried about it. So here's number 2. Okay, so there's part 2. And then, if I'm correct, the last part is going to be up here in, like, the putrefied waterways, which is, again, pretty much one of, if not my least favorite areas in the entire game. So right here, this is going to be Bile Water entrance. There's also going to be one up in Sinner's Road, which I believe I do have the map for. Yeah, so like there's right here. That leads you to the Mist. And then over here, this little segment right here, that is going to be Bile Water. So I think there's also just a little bit of a portion you can see I'm missing in Sinner's Road in the first place. I'm going to head back to Belhart. From there, I'm going to head to, I think, sort of like Greymoor Sinner's Road area. From there, I can sort of determine whether I want to go to either the Mist or Bile Water. I think the Mist is generally sort of like a shorter area that I am generally better at dealing with as well. So I think there's a fair chance I just do that first. It's short. There's a boss at the end of it I don't have to fight quite yet, but there's honestly not really much of a reason not to. It's not a terribly, terribly difficult boss. It's pretty fun, and it gives me a cool spell. The spell itself is essentially just a parry, and I love parry mechanics in most video games, so I can't really say I'm complaining in any respect to that. Don't think I have too many rosaries right now, unfortunately, because I think I really just spent most of them at the merchant when she left. From what I understand, there is also like kind of a secret to the left here. I don't actually know how you get up to that room, but I've always seen it. Like just looking at interactive maps and everything. I don't think Pavo has any new information. Nope, doesn't seem like it. So, rosaries, yeah, definitely lacking a little bit on that. I think I could also go to the deep docks, albeit I do know that I do have to go to the mist and bile water, and so I'm probably going to go get that done first. So from Greymoor, getting up to the point where I can get to bile water from Sinner's Road is pretty easy. It's just in, like, sort of a segment that I haven't fully explored yet. At least not this part. I have done it before. It's sort of that place where you normally will give the Silk Eaters. But there's two routes to get to that section from Greymoor. One of them is the long way through Sinner's Road, like all the way from the bottom of it up and through. And the other way is going to be much faster, just sort of right above the halfway home and a little bit to the right. I am also actually able to get, I was correct in thinking this, I am able to go and get the 4th simple key. And I also actually am able to dual chakra at some point, I know. Right, so there's also this NPC who I am building the Scarecrow for, as I believe I've sort of mentioned before. It's a quest where I just have to kill the Craws to get their sort of pelt. It's not all too difficult. This room, I don't think I've actually fully cleared yet, even though I have been here. There we go. Those enemies that throw projectiles are just kind of annoying. I just don't love having to deal with them. Alright, there we go. Just a shard bundle here. There we go. Luckily, most of these enemies are still pretty docile for the most part. Like, they'll still go to attack you, but they stay mostly out of your way, at least for that area. Here's some craws, so I may as well get some of the rag pelt for the scarecrow. I should be... Yep, I am actually right now in the area that I have not fully explored yet, which is exactly what we're looking for. So there's a few spare rosaries here, I know. More craws. Unfortunately, these tiny ones, even as the barkeep himself mentioned, basically these only give you like 1 per. Each of the bigger craws, like the ones who have all the threefold pins, stuff like that, they all instead will give you like 3. So it's much more efficient to go about killing them instead. These are, you know, a good example. They're just all a little bit of a pain to take out, especially because, as I've mentioned before, they just absolutely love to constantly fly away from you. But there we go. Just a lot quicker, and honestly, in a way, a lot easier to get rag pelt from them. Even if they are more of a pain to deal with, I can also still kill them in sort of like 3 to 4 hits, and that means it's fairly quick to just get all the extra rag pelt. So even 4 is... just a ton of progress in it. I think you need like 20-something total. You can do it just from killing the tiny ones, but it's very, very time-consuming. Couple things just around here. Another silk spool fragment up here, which is always nice. I'm actually getting pretty close this run, all things considered, to having not max silk, but kind of. So currently I am at let's see here, 6 extra bits of silk, and the max is 9, basically double your starting. So all things considered, I'm about 2/3 there, just a little higher now. And then right up here is going to be our way into Sinner's Road. I don't have any Silk Eaters right now, so there's not really anything I can do with this NPC. Got some Rag Pelt now. And looking at the map, so we are far closer to Bilewater than we are the Mist. As I've mentioned, the Mist, however, in my opinion, is just an easier area to deal with, which I can get to pretty quickly still. Oh, don't fall in the maggots. The Mist also means I don't have to deal with the maggots quite yet, and that is preferable, to say the least. It's not a super hard area. It's sort of like, it's almost like a puzzle area. The first time I was in it, I figured there was some way that, you had to figure out where you're supposed to go. And the way that you are supposed to do that in general is that there's like these little flies, so they're the ones that'll normally light up any, lights sort of around all of Farloom. They're always kept in like little bottles and stuff. So there's a bunch of them, and you basically can use your needle in next to them, and they will guide you to the correct exit. Sort of a neat little gimmick, makes the area pretty quick. And just lets you unlock that other segment. So there's a few ways you can get there. There is, as I've mentioned, the one through Sinner's Road. There is one through Bilewater. And then I think that's really most of the ways you can get to the Mist. I don't believe you can get to it at all through... Oh, what's it called? Wisp Thicket. Wisp Thicket, as I've also mentioned, is sort of a dangerous area with a fairly difficult boss. At least a fairly dangerous one, if nothing else. And unfortunately, I did fall into the maggots, but I should be able to clear that off real quick. These enemies also, being fairly easy, albeit a little tanky, do make for pretty good silk farms. They also do offer, honestly, a fair few rosaries, so kind of nice to take them out. So this here is going to be the Mist. So these are the little bugs that normally I'll have to have. So it's, I think, trying to give you a bit of a hint there. You get near them and they sort of just start flying. So this area is a lot of platforming, and what you do, go right next to them, play your needle in, they'll sort of spark up, and then they show you where to go. So if they just go straight up this way, I can only assume that's where they would like me to go. I didn't fully see where they went. I did see the angle, but just to double check, I think, yep, straight up here. So there are also really just like this one enemy type in the Mist. They are a little annoying. They do steal your silk. I do believe they actually also do 2 masks, so you really don't want to get hit by them if you can help it. They do have a Hunter's Journal entry, though, so still got to take them out when I can. And I'm trying to find any others of those little flies. There's some there. Ooh, this is not a great location for one. So there you go. So yeah, they do steal a ton of your silk if they do happen to catch you. Luckily, magnetite dice are kind of coming in clutch right now, so happy enough for that. Unfortunately, dealing with a lot of these enemies kind of becomes a bit of a problem. And they just barely stole enough of my silk, so I'm not able to heal. But luckily, I think dealing with one at a time is much more manageable, and so I can just, get a little bit of extra silk from that one. And I did see just a little bit of an extra spool there. Unfortunately, this room hasn't been very good about giving me many of those flies, though. I didn't know these. I don't know if they're really respawning as much as I'm just, finding more of them that were here in the first place, but they are definitely a little bit of a pain to get through. Okay. Hopefully it's not the other side of the room. Doesn't look like it. Looks like it's just straight up here. Luckily, these ones I think should be a little easier to follow. There we go. So we're definitely making some progress here. I don't think we're quite at the end of the mist yet, but if we aren't, we're getting very, very close. Oh joy. Hopefully that doesn't knock me back into the other room, because I'm pretty sure that would actually reset a bit of progress. There we go. Just hoping that one wouldn't see me, but it's alright. I do need some extra silk anyway. Oh! I didn't know that would fall on me, but I suppose now I do. And that seems like a bit of a problem, and I completely missed the bear trap. Ah, man, these things are really fucking with me. Hopefully, if I'm actually able to take this one, I'll get a heal. Luckily, there will also be a save point once I'm out of the mist, and around the next boss. Don't want to deal with that one, because I think I'm also, generally close enough to finishing this up. I did not know that that was a thing. I see that one this time. It's just a little bit of a timing game with these enemies, and taking them out with that isn't too bad. Unfortunately, man, I did not hit that timing very well. But I was still able to get a heal, so whatever. But still, no matter how rough this area gets, I do not think it will be worse than Bile Water. I can actually just go through here. There are kind of a lot of these enemies around here. Oh, and I think, actually lost all my progress from falling into a pit there. Oh, that sucks. Alright, well, time to go back through the mist. I'm still sort of going to try to take out some of those enemies if I do happen to see them, just to get a little bit of extra health back, because, I mean, I think it's fairly clear I am able to deal with them. I do know sort of how they work, but they are a little bit annoying. Man. Some of the problems with this area, though, is just how much everything is pretty much always out to get you. And that decided to just not pogo in the way that I was actually aiming, so that's nice. It did it yet again, unfortunately. Man! Okay, you know, what I'm thinking here, I'm just gonna fall. And I think just head back out to Sinner's Road, because that is sort of brutalizing me a little bit. If nothing else, Sinner's Road is, I think, at least a little bit more survivable. which is saying something because Sinner's Road is also a gargantuan pain in the ass. But I think there are enemies here, which I know how to deal with pretty well. Whew. Even if it is a little sketchy, I can sort of like get them both to be in this sort of corner. So even if it's not exactly the best and a little risky, I can deal with them here real quick. So unfortunately, this and Bile Water are both, I would say, going to be pretty difficult. I definitely did underestimate the mist a little, I won't lie. But here we are. These things, unfortunately, you kind of just have to take one hit at a time, or else they're just a massive pain. There is going to be another one of those sort of bigger enemies. Never mind, I think I already took it out. So I guess back to the mist. Well, I do not like the mist really very much at all. I do still think it is, in a general sense, more survivable than Bile Water. Because Bile Water just has maggots absolutely everywhere. There's a lot of these enemies which just, like, constantly go after you. They shoot projectiles, which I think you can parry midair, but, like, it's pretty hard. And on top of that, they shoot, like, triple shot, so you can parry one, but that doesn't always mean you're going to parry all of them, you know? That looked like they went further down, I think. Just gonna double check with these ones. Yeah, there they go. Okay. Hopefully there will be some more nearby flies. And that should be right up here. I'm getting close, if nothing else at least, so I'm sort of just trying to look around, see anywhere that I know there's normally, like, silk, or, you know, flies, anything like that. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem I'm really getting anywhere with finding flies in a lot of the areas I'm looking at. There we go. And I am just sort of, I think, going to do my best to dodge a lot of these Wraith-type enemies that are just all around. Albeit with some of them, it hasn't really given me much of an option, has it? I think, honestly, best case scenario is where they sort of just sit right below me like that, or right above me, and I can just hit them over and over. Thankfully, I didn't have to deal with that one. There is another one kind of nearby here, though, and... Okay, looks like I still am going to have to deal with this one, probably. Nope, never mind. I am not entirely sure how I did not get hit by that thing, but you know what? I'm not going to complain again. I should hold my tongue. So it didn't really look like... Let's see here, because that angle didn't look like it was really going straight over there. It looks like it was going, like, down below the spikes, unless I am just entirely wrong. I would say that still seems pretty accurate. Shit, that's not great. Actually, I think this might be getting pretty close here. Oh boy, so now this is going to be that room with the boss. And I think to the right pretty much takes you like straight out to Bile Water, but you can see on the map, this is one of the segments which we just haven't really explored at all yet, which is kind of neat. So the boss in here is going to be Phantom, and the, as I've said, new spell we're going to get is basically a parry mechanic. So it'll take Silk, and when I, you know, use my just regular spell ability, what it does is it kind of just, like, blocks the enemy that tries to hit me, and then deals a bunch of slashing damage through it. It does not always work, mind you. So that's kind of why I don't think it's always exactly the best, but it is cool. And then I think up here's blocked off. And so, as this was the other area I mentioned earlier, where there were all those big steam pipes sort of to the right of, like, the Whispering Vaults, and I said that it sort of gave me the similar vibe to another area later. This is the one I was mentioning. There's a few things over here. The bench will be in a minute, and another Silk Eater is going to be nice just for some extra rosaries. I don't think there's all too much going on with most of these areas. I do think I can pretty much just jump. Never mind, it does look like I have to go down to break that. So that'll just unlock a shortcut back down, because it was blocked off earlier, or I wasn't able to get up to it, really. I believe this is sort of a little lore tidbit, too. So this is, Lace here, speaking to the boss of this area, Phantom. I don't know the exact lore of Phantom, but I know Phantom is considered to be like an older bug, who pretty much accepts you as her final challenge. So I don't think there's anything over to the right. And to the left, I think there's sort of like a little extra section. And another flea. I'm actually getting quite close to all the fleas. I do know there is one, I believe, in Mount Fae, which I actually haven't gotten yet still. It's not a very hard fly to get, but it is there. I do know that I believe both Chakra and the Stag Station for Bile Water is also just directly to the right of the mist, which is kind of nice. So I should be able to get back to that pretty quickly. And then I think up here is actually going to be the boss fight. I don't think I'm going to take that on quite yet. I am able to get back here very quickly just through the mist. Dislike. Oh, so apparently this way is actually blocked off now. And I swear there is sort of like a bench around here somewhere. Unless I'm just being dense and missing it, which I might be. I guess I can go check if this is the actual way to the boss, because if not, I think it's going to have a bench. And so, you know, one way or another, I can take on this boss. I know it's not particularly, like, the hardest boss ever. Hopefully I don't, you know, die, because there's been several times where I've said that before and then just get absolutely obliterated. So it looks like it is. I did not expect that. I know, so she has a lot of parries and a lot of dashes is sort of her main gimmick. She's in a way kind of got a very similar moveset to like Hornet from the first Hollow Knight game, which is kind of neat. Definitely a little different, but a cool boss fight. So that sort of move that she does when she does that parry, slashes like 3 times back and forth, that's basically the spell that you get. Just sort of getting in heals where I can here. Being careful, because that parry really isn't going to mess you up too much. Especially, Hollow Knight has like kind of a weird leniency in enemy parries where like you can kind of hit them, but if you hit them again, then there you go. So they sort of got like that flash segment, and if you hit them when they do that flash, then you're, you know, like totally fine. But if you hit them sort of after that duration, that's when the parry will fully take activation. Okay, so there it is. And I believe she may have a second phase. I'm not entirely sure. Okay, yep, it would seem that's a yes. That one I couldn't really do much to avoid once I was in it. And I will say, I do think the ending of this boss fight has probably one of my favorite endings, just because the way you get the move is you basically use her own parry against her. So I do think we're getting pretty close to the end of this fight. Oh, and here it is. So that there is generally one of my favorite moves in the whole game, just because it's a parry. So we're only really missing 2 spells at this point. Both of them I do know how to get. One of them is an Act 3 exclusive, the other we do, I think, need the Key of the Apostate to get. And that's going to be in the slab. So honestly, even though this spell isn't, like, the best of all time, there's a fair chance I keep it on just because I think it's a very fun playstyle, and I like using it quite a bit. This area, I do believe, yep, brings us sort of right back out to this area, where I did mention, this is sort of what always gives me the energy of it. So, it's just a neat little area. Honestly, one of, I think, the more enjoyable boss fights in the game. I like a lot of the faster ones, so like the Widow is up there. There is one boss, which I believe I've mentioned before. It is the one that's going to give us the other spell from the slab. It's called the First Sinner. That one's also very much up there, but there's a lot of really cool bosses coming up. But for now, really, I got quite a bit done. So I don't have the Biowater map yet. I will have to go through there to actually, you know, get it. That should be fairly quick once I'm in there. And then there's, of course, going to be over there the Putrefied Waterways, which are also not the greatest. But I think coming up, I'm getting pretty close to the end of Act 2. Finishing up that last mask, I think, going through Sands of Karak, which is going to be that last simple key. Finishing up the Deep Docks, and then, I guess, finishing up a little bit of Hunter's March, and then the Wisp Thicket over here. But that I think is really going to be most of it. Besides the Witch's Crest, which I suppose I'm also going to have to get soon, even though I don't exactly love taking the curse and not being able to heal. I think it's something that I can definitely do. But that being said, I think that's going to be a pretty good end for the part today. So thank you for watching and stay tuned.